You can't be serious, Ambassador Chen said, staring at the holographic display with a mixture of disbelief and barely suppressed laughter. You're telling me that the Galactic Trade Council wants to ban chocolate? The Xyloxian representative, a tall, willowy creature with iridescent scales and entirely too many eyes, bobbed its head in what passed for a nod among its species. Indeed, Ambassador, the motion has already passed with an overwhelming majority. Earth chocolate is to be classified as a class or restricted substance, effective immediately. Chen couldn't help it. He burst out laughing, the sound echoing through the austere chamber of the Galactic Embassy on Earth. The Xyloxian's eyes, all 12 of them, blinked in rapid succession, a sign of confusion or possibly indigestion. With Xyloxians, it was often hard to tell the difference. I'm sorry, Chen managed between chuckles, but this is ridiculous. Chocolate? The stuff we give to children? The thing my grandmother used to bribe me with to eat my vegetables? That chocolate? The Xyloxian's scales rippled in what Chen had learned was their equivalent of a shrug. The very same, Ambassador. The Council has determined that Earth chocolate poses an unacceptable risk to galactic society. Chen wiped a tear from his eye, his laughter subsiding into occasional chuckles. Okay, let me get this straight. The same Galactic Trade Council that okayed the import of Regelian Fire Whiskey, a drink that can literally melt your esophagus if you don't swallow it fast enough, thinks chocolate is too dangerous. Regelian Fire Whiskey has clearly labeled warning signs and is only consumed by species with appropriate biological adaptations, the Xyloxian replied, its tone taking on a hint of defensiveness. Earth chocolate, on the other hand, appears harmless but has demonstrated highly addictive properties across a wide range of species. Chen leaned back in his chair, a grin still playing at the corners of his mouth. Addictive properties? It's just cocoa beans, sugar, and milk. Maybe a few nuts if you're feeling fancy. The Xyloxian scales flushed a deep purple, a sign of agitation. Ambassador, please. This is a serious matter. We have documented cases of violent withdrawal symptoms, economic disruption, and even interspecies conflicts arising from Earth chocolate consumption. All right, Chen said, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. I'm listening. Tell me about these cases. The Xyloxian tapped a few commands into its data pad, and the holographic display shifted to show a series of news reports and official documents. Let's start with the Gorlax of Epsilon Eridani IV. After Earth chocolate was introduced to their planet, productivity dropped by 37% within a month. Workers were sneaking off during shifts to consume chocolate, hoarding it in secret caches, and even engaging in petty theft to obtain more. Chen raised an eyebrow. The Gorlax? Aren't they the ones who can photosynthesize? Why would they even eat chocolate? That's precisely the point, Ambassador the Xyloxian said, its tone growing increasingly exasperated. There is no logical reason for Gorlax to consume chocolate. It provides them with no nutritional benefit. And yet, once exposed, they became obsessed with it. Okay, that's odd, Chen admitted. But surely that's just one isolated incident. The Xyloxian's eyes narrowed, all 12 of them focusing on Chen with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. If only it were, Ambassador. Shall we discuss the MRO incident? Chen frowned. The what now? The MRO. Feline-like species from the Carina Nebula, highly intelligent, known for their stoic demeanor and complex social hierarchies. Oh, right, Chen nodded. I remember reading about them. What about them? The Xyloxian's scales rippled again, this time in a pattern that Chen recognized as their equivalent of a deep sigh. 3 solar cycles ago, a Mero trade delegation visited Earth. During their stay, they were introduced to various Earth cuisines, including chocolate. Upon returning to their homeworld, they began importing massive quantities of the substance. And let me guess, Chen said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Suddenly they all started purring and demanding belly rubs. The Xyloxian ignored the jab and continued. Within half a stellar rotation, Mero society was in chaos. Their carefully maintained social hierarchies collapsed as individuals of all ranks became obsessed with obtaining more chocolate. There were reports of Mero rolling on their backs and making strange vocalizations in public spaces. Chen couldn't help but snicker at the mental image. So we turned a race of space cats into, well, Earth cats. This is not a laughing matter. Ambassador the Xyloxian snapped, its scales flushing an even deeper purple. The MRO economy nearly collapsed. It took years of rehabilitation and carefully controlled chocolate rationing to restore order. Chen sobered slightly, but couldn't quite keep the amusement out of his voice. Okay, I'll admit that sounds problematic, but surely these are just isolated incidents. I mean, humans have been consuming chocolate for thousands of years without society collapsing. The Xyloxian's eyes blinked in rapid succession again. Ah, but therein lies the crux of the matter, Ambassador. Humans, it seems, have developed a unique resistance to the more extreme effects of chocolate. Your species has had millennia to adapt. The rest of the galaxy has not been so fortunate.
Chen leaned forward, his curiosity piqued despite his skepticism. What do you mean, extreme effects? It's just a treat, not some kind of super drug.
The Xyloxian tapped its data pad again, and the holographic display shifted to show a complex molecular diagram. This, Ambassador, is the chemical structure of theobromine, one of the primary active compounds in chocolate. In humans, it acts as a mild stimulant. In many alien species, however, it has effects ranging from intense euphoria to hallucinogenic experiences. Chen stared at the diagram, his amusement slowly giving way to a mix of fascination and disbelief. You're telling me that to aliens, our chocolate is basically space drugs? A crude but not entirely inaccurate analogy, the Xyloxian conceded. And it's not just theobromine. The combination of caffeine, various flavonoids, and other compounds in chocolate creates a uniquely potent mixture that affects different species in wildly unpredictable ways. Chen sat back, running a hand through his hair as he tried to process this information. Okay, let's say I believe all this. Why ban it entirely? Surely we could just put warning labels on it, like with the Rigelian fire whiskey. The Xyloxian's scales rippled in a pattern that Chen couldn't quite interpret. Ambassador, we tried that approach initially. It did not go well. What happened? Well, the warning labels only served to increase interest in the product. Several species took it as a challenge. The Vrock tar of Betelgeuse VII, for instance, pride themselves on their ability to consume dangerous substances. When they saw chocolate labeled as a potential hazard, they began holding chocolate-eating contests. Chen couldn't help but laugh again. And let me guess, it didn't end well for the Vrock tar. The Xyloxian's tone was grave. An entire Vrock tar battle fleet was found drifting in space, its crew incapacitated. When boarding parties managed to gain access, they found the Vrock tar warriors engaged in what can only be described as a massive pillow fight. Chen blinked. A pillow fight? Yes, Ambassador. Using their own molted exoskeletons as improvised pillows, they were giggling. Chen tried to imagine a group of tough alien warriors having a giggly pillow fight and failed. Okay, that's certainly unexpected. But surely not all species react that way. The Xyloxian's scales rippled again. No, indeed. The reactions vary widely. The quantum hive mind of Proxima Centauri b, for instance, experienced a complete fragmentation after exposure to chocolate. Individual nodes began experiencing independent thoughts for the first time in millennia. It was utter chaos. Chen frowned. Wait, isn't individual thought generally considered a good thing? Not when you're a gestalt consciousness responsible for maintaining the delicate balance of a Dyson sphere, Ambassador the Xyloxian replied dryly. Imagine if suddenly every cell in your body decided it wanted to be an independent organism. Point taken, Chen conceded. But still, a complete ban seems extreme. Couldn't we limit exports, maybe set up some kind of controlled distribution system? The Xyloxian's eyes all focused on Chen again, its tone becoming even more serious. Ambassador, I don't think you fully grasped the severity of the situation. Let me tell you about the Grax-Nor incident. Chen sighed, settling back in his chair. All right, hit me with it. What's the Grax-Nor incident? The Grax-Nor are a species of energy beings from the Andromeda galaxy. They don't have physical bodies in the conventional sense, existing instead as patterns of pure energy. They're known for their logical, dispassionate nature and their advanced technology. Chen nodded. I've heard of them. Didn't we establish diplomatic relations with them a few years ago? Indeed, the Xyloxian confirmed. As part of the cultural exchange program, a Grax-Nor delegation visited Earth during a tour of a chocolate factory. Oh no, Chen interrupted, a grin spreading across his face despite himself. Don't tell me. They all turned into Oompa Loompas. The Xyloxian's scales flushed a deep blue, which Chen recognized as their equivalent of confusion. I'm not familiar with the term Oompa Loompa, Ambassador, but what happened was far more concerning. The Grax Nor, upon being exposed to the aerosolized cocoa particles in the air, began to solidify. Chen's grin faded. Solidify? What do you mean? Their energy patterns began to coalesce into physical form. At first, it was just wisps of matter, barely visible. But as they consumed more chocolate, the effect intensified. Within hours, they had developed fully physical bodies. Chen leaned forward, his skepticism warring with fascination. That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, the ability to transition from energy to matter at will could be revolutionary. The Xyloxian's tone grew even more grave. Ambassador, you misunderstand. This wasn't a controlled process. The Grax Nor were terrified. They had no idea how to operate physical bodies. Some of them materialized inside walls or machinery. Others found themselves suddenly subject to gravity for the first time in their existence. It was pandemonium. Chen winced. Okay, that does sound bad. Were there casualties? Fortunately, no, the Xyloxian replied. But it took weeks to figure out how to reverse the process. And even now, months later, some of the affected Grax Nor report occasional solidification episodes, particularly when in the presence of anything resembling chocolate. Chen sat back, his mind reeling. So, let me get this straight. Chocolate makes plant people steal, turns stoic cat aliens into goofballs, causes hive minds to fragment, and can literally give physical form to energy beings. A succinct summary, yes, the Xyloxian nodded. And those are just a few examples. We've documented hundreds of species-specific reactions, ranging from the mildly inconvenient to the potentially civilization-ending. Chen rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Okay, I'm starting to see why the Council is concerned. But a total ban? Do you have any idea what that would do to Earth's economy? Chocolate is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The Xyloxian's scales rippled in what Chen had learned was a sympathetic gesture. We understand this will be difficult for Earth, Ambassador. But the Council believes the risks to galactic stability far outweigh the economic concerns of a single planet. Chen stood up, pacing the room as he tried to think. There has to be another solution. What if we develop some kind of, I don't know, alien-proof chocolate, something that has the same taste and texture for humans but doesn't affect other species? The Xyloxian's eyes blinked rapidly. An interesting proposal, Ambassador. But given the wide variety of physiologies and biochemistries among galactic species, developing such a product would be an enormous undertaking. And there's no guarantee it would be effective for all species. Chen stopped pacing, a thought suddenly occurring to him. Wait a minute. You said humans have developed a resistance to the more extreme effects of chocolate, right? That appears to be the case. Yes, the Xyloxian confirmed. A slow grin spread across Chen's face. So what you're saying is, humans are basically immune to this super-space drug that drives the rest of the galaxy crazy. The Xyloxian's scales flushed a deep red, a sign of alarm. Ambassador, I urge you not to view this as some kind of advantage. The potential for abuse. Chen waved a hand dismissively. Relax. I'm not suggesting we start some kind of galactic chocolate cartel. But think about it, if humans are resistant to these effects, couldn't we use that somehow? Maybe we could develop some kind of treatment or vaccine using human DNA. The Xyloxian was silent for a moment, its eyes blinking in rapid succession as it considered the idea. It's not entirely without merit, it admitted reluctantly, but developing such a treatment would take years, possibly decades. In the meantime, the risks to galactic society remain. Chen nodded, his mind racing. Okay, fair point. But what if we proposed a compromise? Instead of a total ban, we agree to strictly controlled exports, limited quantities, only to species that have been thoroughly tested for adverse reactions. We could set up dedicated research facilities to study the effects and work on developing countermeasures. The Xyloxian's scales rippled in a pattern that Chen recognized as thoughtful consideration. It's an interesting proposal, Ambassador, but I'm not sure the Council will agree. The fear of chocolate's effects has become quite widespread. Chen grinned. Then we'll just have to sweeten the deal, won't we? The Xyloxian's eyes all focused on Chen, narrowing slightly. I'm not sure I understand your meaning, Ambassador. Chen's grin widened. It's simple. We'll offer to share our chocolate resistance genes with the rest of the galaxy. Think about it, Earth could become the center for a new field of xenobiology. We could help other species develop their own resistance to chocolate's effects. It would be a huge scientific breakthrough, not to mention a massive boost to interstellar relations. The Xyloxian was silent for a long moment, its scales shifting through a range of colors as it processed the idea. Finally, it spoke. It's an intriguing proposition, Ambassador. But there are many ethical and practical considerations to consider. Gene therapy on a galactic scale is no small undertaking. Chen nodded, his excitement growing. Of course. We'd need to set up rigorous testing protocols, get informed consent from participating species, the whole 9 yards. But think of the potential benefits. We could turn this whole chocolate crisis into an opportunity for unprecedented galactic cooperation. The Xyloxian's scales settled into a pale blue, a color Chen had learned indicated cautious optimism. I must admit, Ambassador, your species continues to surprise me. Where we saw only crisis, you've managed to find opportunity. Chen smiled, feeling a surge of pride. That's kind of our thing, you know. Humans have a knack for turning problems into possibilities. It's how we went from cave-dwelling primates to a spacefaring civilization in the blink of an eye, cosmically speaking. The Xyloxian's eyes blinked rapidly. A trait that has not gone unnoticed by the galactic community, I assure you. Your adaptability and creativity are somewhat unsettling to many species. Chen laughed. Unsettling? US, we're just a bunch of talking apes on a rock hurtling through space. How scary could we be? The Xyloxian's scales rippled in what Chen had come to recognize as their version of a chuckle. Ambassador, I think you underestimate the impact your species has had on galactic society. In the short time since Earth joined the galactic community, you've managed to upend countless long-held assumptions and practices. Chen raised an eyebrow. Oh, do tell. I'm always interested in hearing how we've been accidentally terrorizing the galaxy. The Xyloxian's eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign Chen had learned indicated mild exasperation. Terror is perhaps too strong a word, Ambassador. But consider this: in less than a century, your species has developed faster than light travel, using principles that our top scientists had declared theoretically impossible, established diplomatic relations with species that had been at war for millennia, introduced concepts like pizza and karaoke that have spread across the galaxy like wildfire. And now, apparently, you've been casually consuming a substance that can alter the fundamental nature of energy beings. Chen couldn't help but laugh. When you put it like that, I guess we do sound like a bunch of troublemakers. But come on, you have to admit the galaxy's been a lot more interesting since we showed up. The Xyloxian's scales flushed a deep blue, which Chen had learned indicated a mix of amusement and concern. Interesting is certainly one word for it, Ambassador. I believe the Vorlon ambassador used the term chaotic nexus of improbability in a recent council session. Chen grinned. I'll take that as a compliment. Now, about this chocolate situation, do you think the council would be open to my proposal? The whole turn crisis into opportunity thing. The Xyloxian was silent for a moment, its eyes blinking in a complex pattern as it considered. It's not without merit, it admitted finally. The idea of using human resistance to develop treatments for other species is intriguing, and the potential for scientific cooperation is significant. Chen nodded eagerly. Exactly. And think about the diplomatic benefits. Earth could become a hub for xenobiological research. We could host scientists from across the galaxy, fostering cultural exchange along with scientific progress. The Xyloxian's scales rippled thoughtfully. An ambitious vision, Ambassador. But there are still significant hurdles to overcome. The fear of chocolate's effects is deeply ingrained in many species now, and the logistics of such a massive research undertaking would be daunting. Chen waved a hand dismissively. Details. We'll figure it out as we go. That's another human specialty, muddling through and somehow coming out on top. The Xyloxian's eyes all focused on Chen, narrowing slightly. That attitude, Ambassador, is precisely what many species find so unsettling about humans. Your casual approach to galaxy-altering decisions is, frankly, terrifying to more conservative species. Chen laughed. Hey, if we waited until we had everything figured out, we'd never get anything done. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and trust that you'll figure out how to fly before you hit the ground. The Xyloxian scales flushed a deep purple, indicating alarm. That metaphor is not as reassuring as you seem to think it is, Ambassador. Chen grinned. Relax, it's just an expression. Look, I get that our methods might seem a bit unorthodox to some species, but you can't argue with results, right? And I think this chocolate situation is the perfect opportunity to show the galaxy what humans do best: turn a problem into a solution. The Xyloxian was silent for a long moment, its scales shifting through a range of colors as it processed Chen's words. Finally, it spoke. Very well, Ambassador. I will present your proposal to the Council. But I warn you, there will be significant opposition. Many species are calling for Earth to be quarantined until the chocolate situation can be fully understood and contained. Chen's grin faded. Quarantined. That's a bit extreme, isn't it? We're not talking about some deadly virus here. The Xyloxian's tone was grave. From the perspective of many species, Ambassador, chocolate is worse than a virus. It doesn't just affect bodies, it alters minds, changes behaviors, reshapes entire societies. The Grax, nor incident alone has caused widespread panic. Chen sighed, running a hand through his hair. Okay, I see your point. But surely a quarantine would do more harm than good. Earth is a major trading hub now. Cutting us off from the galactic economy would have ripple effects across dozens of sectors. The Xyloxian nodded, its scales rippling in agreement. Precisely why your proposal may be our best option, Ambassador. If we can present a plan for controlled research and potential treatment, it might be enough to stave off more drastic measures. Chen nodded, his mind racing. All right, then let's flesh this out. We'll need to put together a comprehensive proposal: research protocols, safety measures, potential applications. And we'll need to address the concerns of the species most affected by chocolate. The Xyloxian's eyes blinked rapidly. An ambitious undertaking, Ambassador. The Council meets in 3 solar rotations to vote on the chocolate ban. Can you have a proposal ready by then? Chen grinned. 3 days to save chocolate and prevent Earth from being quarantined. Piece of cake, or should I say, piece of chocolate. The Xyloxian's scales flushed a deep blue. Your confidence is either admirable or terrifying, Ambassador. I'm not entirely sure which. Chen laughed. Why not both? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a galaxy to save and a multi-billion-dollar industry to rescue. Just another day at the office for a human diplomat. As Chen turned to leave, already mentally drafting his proposal, the Xyloxian called out. Ambassador, one last question, if I may. Chen paused at the door. Sure, shoot. The Xyloxian's tone was hesitant. This piece of cake expression, it's not literal, is it? There's no actual cake involved in your diplomatic processes. Chen couldn't help but burst out laughing. No cake involved. Usually. Although now that you mention it, maybe we should include some in the proposal. Nothing wins over a tough crowd like free dessert. The Xyloxian scales rippled in what Chen had learned was their equivalent of a long-suffering sigh. I'll take that under advisement, Ambassador. Good luck with your proposal. As Chen left the embassy, his mind was already whirling with ideas. He had 3 days to convince a galaxy of chocolate-fearing aliens that humans weren't just reckless cocoa junkies, but potential saviors of the galactic economy and pioneers of a new era of xenobiology. Just another day in the life of Earth's ambassador to the stars. 3 days later, Chen stood before the Galactic Trade Council, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. The chamber was packed, with representatives from hundreds of species filling the tiered seats. The air was thick with tension, and Chen couldn't help but notice a variety of alien pheromones that made his nose itch. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed a slowly rotating image of Earth, surrounded by warning symbols. Chen took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and stepped up to the podium. Esteemed members of the council, he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. I stand before you today to address what has been dubbed the chocolate crisis, but I'm not here to deny the problem or plead for leniency. Instead, I'm here to offer a solution. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Chen could see tentacles waving, antennae twitching, and in one case, what looked like a small thundercloud forming over a particularly agitated delegate. We've all seen the reports, Chen continued. The Gorlak productivity crash, the MRO societal upheaval, the Grax Nor incident. It's clear that chocolate, a substance humans have enjoyed for thousands of years, can have unexpected effects on other species. The murmur grew louder. Chen held up a hand, calling for silence. But where some see only crisis, we humans see opportunity. Yes, Chocolate has caused problems, but it has also opened up new avenues of research, new possibilities for interspecies cooperation, and new frontiers in xenobiology. Chen tapped a control on the podium, and the holographic display changed. Now, it showed a complex molecular diagram, the structure of human DNA, with certain sequences highlighted. What you're looking at is the key to human chocolate resistance. Through generations of exposure, our species has developed unique genetic markers that allow us to enjoy chocolate without the extreme effects seen in other species. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices. Chen could make out snatches of conversation, impossible genetic engineering threat to galactic society. Chen waited for the noise to die down before continuing. I know what you're thinking. Oh great, the crazy humans want to mess with our DNA now, but hear me out. We're not proposing some kind of forced genetic modification. What we're offering is a chance to study these resistance factors, to understand how they work, and potentially develop treatments that could allow other species to enjoy chocolate safely. The holographic display changed again, now showing a complex network of research facilities spanning multiple planets. We propose the establishment of the Galactic Chocolate Research Initiative, a collaborative effort bringing together scientists from across the galaxy to study the effects of chocolate on different species, develop potential treatments, and explore new applications for cocoa-based compounds. Ben could see interest sparking in the eyes and other sensory organs of many delegates. He pressed on, his confidence growing. Imagine the possibilities. Chocolate-based medications that could treat a wide range of ailments across multiple species, new materials inspired by cocoa's unique properties, and yes, eventually, the chance for everyone to enjoy a good chocolate bar without fear of turning into energy beings or starting interstellar pillow fights. A ripple of what might have been laughter ran through the chamber. Chen grinned. He had them hooked. But this isn't just about chocolate. This initiative represents a new era of galactic cooperation. Earth is offering to share our expertise, our resources, and yes, our DNA, for the benefit of all species. We have a chance here to turn a crisis into a catalyst for unprecedented scientific and diplomatic progress. Chen paused, looking around the chamber. He could see the Xyloxian representative, its scales shifting through a kaleidoscope of colors. The Mero delegation was engaged in a heated whispered discussion, their tails twitching in agitation. And in the back, the Grax nor representatives hovered, their energy patterns flickering with what Chen hoped was interest, rather than anger. I know some of you are scared, Chen said, his voice softening. Chocolate has caused chaos in your societies, disrupted your ways of life. You're worried that humans, with our apparent immunity to its effects, might use this as some kind of advantage. But that's not who we are. He gestured to the holographic display, which now showed images of humans and aliens working side by side in laboratories, in diplomatic chambers, in everyday life. Since joining the galactic community, humans have strived to be partners, not conquerors. We've shared our technology, our culture, our pizza recipes. Now we're offering to share the very building blocks of our biology. All in the name of turning this crisis into an opportunity for all of us to grow, to learn, and yes, to enjoy a good snack together someday. Chen took a deep breath, preparing for his final push. Members of the council, I stand before you not just as Earth's ambassador, but as a representative of a species that has always looked at the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity and hope. We don't want to be quarantined. We don't want to hoard our chocolate like some kind of cosmic drug lords. We want to work with you to solve this problem together and to forge a future where a love of chocolate unites species rather than divides them. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and other visual organs of as many delegates as he could. The choice before you today is not just about banning or allowing a single substance. It's about how we as a galactic society respond to challenges. Do we react with fear and isolation, or do we come together, pooling our knowledge and resources to find a solution that benefits all? Chen spread his arms wide, a gesture of openness and invitation. Earth chooses cooperation. Earth chooses progress. Earth chooses a future where we face our challenges head-on, together. I ask you, members of the council, will you choose to join us? As Chen stepped back from the podium, the chamber erupted into a frenzy of discussion. Delegates argued passionately in dozens of languages, tentacles waved, antennae quivered. And in one corner, a small plasma storm broke out as an energy being got a bit too excited. The Xyloxian representative approached Chen, its scales a swirling mix of colors. Chen couldn't quite interpret. That was quite a performance, Ambassador, it said, its tone a mix of admiration and exasperation. You've certainly given the council a lot to think about. Chen grinned. That was the idea. So what do you think? Did I manage to sweeten the deal enough? The Xyloxian's eyes all blinked simultaneously. It's too early to say. Your proposal is ambitious, some would say recklessly so. But Chen prompted. But it's also undeniably intriguing. The idea of turning this crisis into an opportunity for galactic cooperation. It's very human. Chen laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. The Xyloxian's scales rippled in what Chen had learned was their version of a shrug. It wasn't entirely meant as one. Your species' propensity for turning chaos into progress is unsettling to many. Story of our lives, Chen said with a grin. So, what happens now? Now, the Xyloxian said, we debate. Your proposal will be discussed, dissected, and debated. It may take days, possibly weeks, before a decision is reached. Chen nodded. I understand. And in the meantime, the Xyloxian's eyes narrowed slightly. In the meantime, Ambassador, I would strongly advise against any attempts to, shall we say, sweeten the deal with actual chocolate. We've installed sensors throughout the council chambers. Chen held up his hands in mock surrender. Wouldn't dream of it. I'll just head back to Earth and wait for the council's decision. Maybe enjoy a nice cup of hot cocoa while I wait. The Xyloxian's scales flushed a deep purple. Your ability to joke in the face of a potential galactic crisis is charming, endearing, roguishly handsome, Chen suggested. Terrifying, the Xyloxian finished. Utterly terrifying. As Chen left the council chambers, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. He'd done his best to turn a potential disaster into an opportunity for progress. Now it was up to the galaxy to decide if they were ready to take a chance on humanity's crazy ideas. Win or lose, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never look at chocolate the same way again. And maybe, just maybe, they'd never look at humans the same way either. After all, in a universe full of wonders, sometimes the most amazing thing of all is a species crazy enough to think they can change the galaxy with a chocolate bar and a dream.